We're going to go over and then there'll be time for some questions. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Zoom, if you wave your little magic mouse across the bottom, you'll see some different icons there. Just if you need to mute or unmute, because we're such a small group, if you want to talk, you sure can. I don't have a problem with that. And as well as any reactions that you have, we have these cool little emojis. You can also, raise your hand or lower your hand. If you go to the participant, you'll see there's little icons there that will help you raise and lower your hand. And we'll use those from time to time. And then, of course, the chat box will have it pulled up and you can feel free to chat. I'm actually very fortunate. I'm able to have chat in a totally different monitor. So if you see me glancing to my right, that's what I'm looking at chat. And then if you need an additional aid in helping you understand today's webinar, you need some annotation, you can definitely turn that on. Okay, so attending with other colleagues from your site or even yourself. So if everybody would just take a few seconds to introduce yourself and name, location, and if you're at a place where there's more than one of you, please be sure to introduce everybody that's not in their own separate little box. And that way it'll help us be sure who all is here. And while you guys are doing that, I'll go ahead and go over some of our training goals. So once again, we're going to grow in our knowledge of thinking about what algebra truly is and what algebraic concepts are. And we're going to learn new strategies for creating opportunities to look for those situations where algebraic thinking is in place. Now, there is a disconnect between what school algebra looks like and what real life algebra looks like. So based off of research, it is always best to approach it from real life with adults and then move to the more abstract examples. All right, and just so you know who I am, for those of you that haven't been here before, I'm Dr. Brooke Istis, and I do my research in adult education, specifically with math and anxiety with adult learners and how they learn math. And I have taught in and around adult education for almost 15 years. It might even be more than that. I think when you start to say 15 years, it seems like half your life already. So we'll just stick with almost 15 years. I also am a Links community of practice moderator and a trainer as well.
Well, Brooke, I just had my 30th anniversary in adult ed. So if you're getting old at 15, I am like.
Well, I mean, honestly, looking at NRS data, people do not stay in the field of adult education very long. So good job. You found your home. This slide is very important because as teachers, we have a tendency to see everything through our teacher eye. So I like to tell people they're wearing two hats today. So every time you approach an activity today, I want you to view it first as that you are the student. So it's your view of you as the student, not how your students would view it, but how you would view it. And then second, we'll always leave time to reflect about what the activity did, how meaningful it would be with our teacher hat as well. All right, so if in chat, if you would, I would like for you to tell me all the things that come to mind when you hear the word algebra, and then we'll just start with that, and then we'll come back to is it something you use? So, what things come to mind when you hear the word algebra? Yes. Yes. Okay. Good. can be a heavy textbook. I'm liking these answers. They're good. Yeah, so even expressions with letters and symbols, good. Yes. Anything else? Okay, inverse operations, yes. I like it. Ooh, good, Kim. Yay. It's abstract. It is a powerful tool, yes. Okay, these are all good. So this is a really good activity to do with your learners. It is very it's not a heavy lift for them. This way you kind of get a sense of where they are, where they see algebra. And then we can go to the second question while I'm kind of unpacking this first one. Is it something that you use? And so that's just a yes or no. And like I said, students see algebra in a different way. There's a lot of emotions. I mean, I saw run on there. I used to tell the story about how if I told students that the next day we were going to do algebra, like some of them wouldn't come to class that day. So I got to the point where I would just tell them that we were going to do problem solving. And so when my students think about algebra, some of the things that I hear are a lot of the same things that you mentioned, but also I like to bring up other vocabulary that is sometimes used. And for non-native speakers, this is really good to kind of go over because these words have several different meanings. And so having like a word wall or something that you can build upon with the definitions that they create themselves to help them remember, or even if you have them have a notebook where they can start to list the different words and create their own meaning for them. Even if it's an emotional word, I feel like all words are important, as you know, from if you were in the first 2 days last month. Emotional words have a lot of power in them, and it's good to get them out. And so I always leave time for that. So current research on algebraic thinking talks about these 4 areas of reasoning that happen. There's always this idea of patterns and functions and looking for relationships between situations. There's modeling, seeing if you can arrive at a formula or an algebraic expression, and viewing it in terms of the phenomena that it represents. And then, of course, language, being able to use words, pictures, tables, graphs, symbols to express what's going on. And then, of course, structure and syntax. So building on the arithmetic, making the general statements about the numbers, and of course, the grammar. So this is kind of a good model to keep in mind whenever you think about where algebra is in the adult world when we start teaching with adult learners. And this is adapted from the Empower series. And I know many of you have that curriculum at your program, in which we focus on the situation first, trying to understand what is going on. And then we can take it 5 different ways. We can create a table, we can do a graph, we can do words, we can do a diagram, we can create an equation. All of these things in itself are ways of modeling that help us to understand algebra. So, as you know, algebraic thinking involves looking for structure to make sense of situations, generalizing beyond specifics. So what I normally tell students is every day they probably, I mean, you all said that, yes, you use algebra every day. My students would tell you no, a lot of times. And so I like to tell them that it's about looking for patterns or structure or the relationship. Um, and sometimes we joke around and I'll say, I know you're at the gas station with your graph and you're figuring out the equation for how much gas is going to cost you. I mean, it's kind of a joke, but in a way, purchasing gas is a really good algebraic relationship. And so we just talk about ways where algebra can be seen. And it's interesting because students over time will then say to me that they don't go anywhere without seeing the pattern or looking for a pattern or trying to make some logic out of a situation. And I always smile from ear to ear because as a teacher, that's what we want. We want our students to make those connections. Oops, back up. All right, so the recommendation in adult ed is to integrate the elements of algebraic thinking early at all levels of arithmetic instruction. So Darcy, you were saying that you're doing addition. Perfect. It's a great time to start doing that modeling. And then that helps us when we do formal algebraic instruction. All right, so I'm going to have you guys look at this stick figure. And what are the hands doing of the next group of people? Are they up, hands up, or hands down? And you can unmute if you want. I see down, 5 down. Okay, there are 5. Yes, the next group is 5. Good. Down, down. Okay. What if I asked you what the 10th group? Are they arms up or arms down? Could you tell me that? So the 10th group of characters. Okay, I see up, even, so up. Ah, so Ruth is making a conjecture. So is Landon. Even number is up. Good. So using that word conjecture is good to use with our students to help them understand that as being a mathematician, a conjecture is a guess, basically. And so until you can prove it. So it's just a conjecture at this point. So if it gets to the point where I have 555, that group, based off of your conjecture, their arms would be, what would they be? 555. And you can unmute. You don't have to always type everything down. Okay, yes, down. So the pattern that you're seeing then would be even numbers are up and odd numbers are down. And you're also seeing that the groups are increasing. So that's good. This is a very basic idea of what algebra is. It's about noticing the pattern and being able to make conjectures and guesses and get to the right solution. So when we talk about algebraifying arithmetic, we talk about looking for structures and patterns as components of adults relearning arithmetic. So several of our adults come to us not knowing formal arithmetic, or it's been several years since they've done formal arithmetic. And so helping them to see patterns and structures and just ask them, what do you notice and what do you wonder, is a good step in that direction of teaching for algebraic thinking. And then, of course, the reteaching and relearning of arithmetic should also always anticipate we're getting towards algebra. So with that in mind, here is a picture of 1 cup. It's just a picture. I just took it. I wonder, what if I stacked them? I'm looking at my 2 stacked cups and I think, okay, I'm going to put these in my cupboard. So I wonder, just making these conjectures since we're talking about patterns, could I predict how tall 8 cups would be? And then could I predict how tall 50 cups would be? And then if my cupboard is only 14 inches high, could I figure out how many cups would fit in that? Could I then maybe describe what I noticed about that in some kind of words? And maybe some symbols. Maybe I could get to a, way to write it out. This rule that I'm finding. So there are, let's see, how many of us there are? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of us. Okay. So I'm going to put us in breakout groups, and I'm going to then these, well, actually, before I do that, what are some things that maybe you would know? Maybe we could do this together. We'll start this and then we'll put you in your breakout groups. What are some things that you would need to know to be able to answer this question? And you can unmute, you don't have to. How tall are the cups?
They've done the first one.
How tall the rim of the cup is, or the band at the top.
Okay, so something like that, would that be helpful? Okay, is that all you need, is to know that amount there?
That the part that shows of the next cup,
The part, like
like
you mean
the
the stacked,
The lip.
the lip, so like maybe like that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so like I said, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, and then I still use Jamboards for as long as Google will let me. So I am going to post these in the chat right now, the different groups, the 4 different groups we have. And I'm going to let you get in your groups and to kind of talk through these problems. Now, these are already pasted in the Jamboard. Is anyone not familiar with Jamboard and how Jamboard works? Because we can talk through that real quick too. Darcy, okay, perfect. All right, so when you get into your, I'm going to put a link, and then you're going to go into a room, and then you will be able to access this from your computer. You'll click on the link and it'll open up, and it'll have all the information you need there. And then you will be able to talk it out. If you want, you can, if you have a pen, you can write. There's ways you can write with your mouse. You can put a little text box. You can do sticky notes, but you guys can figure out what you want. I want you to work together. Give you guys some time to do this, probably give you about, I think maybe 10 minutes. We'll see where we're at in 10 minutes. And then we'll come back together and we'll find out what you learned. Okay. All right. So I'm putting the links to the different Jamboards in the chat now. And then when you go to your assigned Jamboard, you'll click on that. So I have opened up the different rooms, and you should be joining them.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, now I can talk. Somebody came in.
Oh, okay.
Here. Ah,
Okay.
I think I need another monitor, one that you can mount above. Okay, how tall would 8 cups be?
I don't
8
know
cups
how to-
individually or 8 cups stacked?
I thought it was stacked. Wasn't it stacked?
I think stacked.
I don't see the directions. That's the Jamboard
Oh,
part.
Go into your chat, click the chat open, and then click
Okay.
on group 2, the link for group 2.
Oh, okay.
And then it should pop up.
Well, what happened here? Okay.
So it's 1 1/8 inches is that lip. No, I lied. What was I doing? That's 6/8.
I was thinking proportion.
That's right. 7/8. Right.
Okay. Expand.
What did you get?
Well, the lip is an inch and 1/8, right?
Yep, that's what I got.
And then so if you just take an inch and an eighth. So if you want 8 cups all together, so if you take an inch and 1/8 times 7 and then add your
Mhm.
original cup, you got your full. See how we're doing that, Darcy?
Yeah, kind of. You're doing,
But there's probably a more algebraic way to do it.
times 7, right?
Right. You take the lip times 7.
Flip. Well, see, that makes sense to me, but then again, I'm not your math person yet.
So if
I
you take
said yet.
if you take the 9/8 times 7,
Nine.
63/8. And then if you just add in your
Whoops.
original
Three,
cup,
two, five, 4 3/4 and 8.
No.
5, 4, and 3/4, so 4.75 times 8 cups.
Oh,
Whoops.
of course, now I have a mixed number, not a fraction.
you can use the handy switch sign button on your calculator.
Well, which would be fine, but I'm sitting here at the 10 key because I'm not in a room that has
Oh,
one.
I didn't think about getting a calculator.
So what did you get then?
I got partway through. Oh, is it 61 for 50 cups?
I thought it was
That would be
63.
that would be weird that it's
Yeah, if we did
Okay.
the stack,
Well, it'd be 50.
I was thinking
it's 49.
5.78 times what? Was that
59.875.
For the 50 cups?
times
50. Okay.
Well, if you take 50 times
75.
9/8,
So I thought if 8 cups, there's so many, for how we call it. You can do cups to inches, right? On one proportion 8 over X.
56 and a quarter
And the other side,
plus the original
4 3/4.
is what I get.
56
Am I off?
plus the original. The original was 4 3/4.
Right. So
The original cup.
So then I get 61. Is that what you got, Nikita?
I still got 59.875.
8.
Okay, so I took the 50 times 9/8,
That's my
right? I just converted it to a, because I
I
have to do it
and
on
then
paper here.
I did 49 times the 9/8.
That's right, right. I didn't subtract the 1. That's why. Or you could, so I could just take the 56.25 and subtract. No, that won't work. But how do you make that into a formula so you can just put the next number in?
1 1/8 x plus 4.75 or 4 3/4.
There you go.
Got this down because we've been doing it since December.
So it's
We've been in algebra for a while.
5 times x plus 4.75. There you go. So
okay.
if you just put, to get like your 14 inches to the short cover, just put your 14 equals 14 and do your reverse to subtract it out.
9 cups.
I got 8 1/4 cups, so
So 8 1/4, plus the 1 cup, or wait,
no,
no,
because
yeah, 8 cups and then I, no, I did something wrong.
if you just use your formula of the 1.125x plus 4.75 and then put equals 14, you should be able to solve for x. Sorry, Darcy. Okay,
That's okay.
I got the one
So
point
then it
one.
would round down to 8 cups.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you take the one, because I do this every night, literally. You guys might do it all day, but I do it every night. Oh,
Are we able to draw on here? Without it draw, it shouldn't draw on everyone's
no,
screen,
this
right?
is only ours.
So 1 1/8 x.
And I just converted the eighths to decimal point because it's easier to do math wise for me.
That's
So
what I did too.
so it's 1.125.
Hear me out on this. What if one side of it is 8 cups for X amount of inches, right? And then on the other side of it, it's 2 cups for
Can't you
5.88 inches, right, for the 2 cups. Now, I think that's gonna be pretty sure we can find it. Because we're using the stack method.
Okay.
There
So
you
if we're
go.
doing it traditional algebra kind of setup,
Yep. You do amazingly well with that. Mine are always so scribbly.
I get a lot of practice.
We have two, but we have two.
I do like using the document camera though when I'm doing
Yeah.
longer problems.
For every 2 cups, we have,
9.25.
well, you have 2 cups for 5 inches. Yeah, me too.
And since you're not going to cut a cup apart, this is also assuming that all the cups are the same size, the same type of lids, which would be awesome. But at my house, I just have a mismatch of whatever didn't get broke.
Yeah. Yeah. At my house, I don't stack things because I don't like the noise
No,
of
me either.
stacking and unstacking. So
Nope.
it's a single row.
They have to be in rows.
These are important conversations to have, I'm telling you.
Yeah, well,
Yes, no, some students don't even know what it means to stack, so this is good.
This would be an easy one to do on a Zoom class. Like if you got like the styrofoam cups or something, they'd have the same kind of lip and it would be easy for students to see using a camera because that's not always super easy with Zoom examples.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
we said we use document cams a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you what I do use for Zoom classes. I've got a whole box with like
Wow.
little tiny food boxes and stuff. So we've been doing a lot of math problems with these, and they think it's funny how tiny the stuff, like there's a little mac and cheese. So that's what we use. We've been doing geometry, so it's like find the volume, how much mayonnaise can fit in this little tiny mayo jar.
And I know that, one of the things, Darcy, that my son kind of, well, all of them, and I've noticed over the years is it's like when you first start with the algebra, if you get rid of the X and just put a box to indicate some numbers got to go in there,
Mhm.
That seems to be less frightening than the letter.
You don't know either.
Yep,
Maybe, yeah.
I do
That makes
that.
sense.
I do that with my students. So put a box or a line or a question mark because that doesn't seem like algebra. That seems like a worksheet you did in elementary school. You had the little boxes that you filled in.
Right.
The X is scary because it's different, but it means the same thing. And then I like to make my students watch me write the whole word out instead of an abbreviation. And then they kind of get like, okay, yep, that's why you want to use a letter, because if I have to sit here and watch you write out the formula for something using words instead of the abbreviations, then it makes more sense than like, why are we using a weird letter?
Well, and also like when you use that box, then you generally are going to put your multiplication symbol because otherwise some people get confused and say that X. So you may tell me to multiply and add it together at the same time. How do you do, so
Very tough.
it just eliminates a little that initially. And after a while, yeah,
Mhm.
I get what
Yeah.
Nikita, you're saying. It's like after a while, they're like, X.
Yep. Yeah, that's my favorite thing in math is show them why we do it a certain way because the alternative is too slow or takes too long or, is too tedious. Because that's really why we do a lot of the things the way we do them is to make it less tedious. But
Yeah.
when you're learning it, it's overwhelming.
Mhm.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
we haven't
enjoyed
done it
watching
much.
you guys. Yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna leave. Guys,
Okay.
see ya.
Back. Welcome
Yeah.
back. Hey, I think everybody is back now. Great. All right, so I sent out a little broadcast for you guys to have a quick minute to pick a reporter outer, if you will, to talk about some of the conversations that you had, any challenges that you had, any aha moments that you had, and just kind of the general conversation that happened. And we'll start with group one because I'll put it on the screen for us all to share. And so who is going to be the spokesperson for group one?
I don't know that we got the broadcast.
Oh, well,
So, but
well,
we are
on the
definitely
spot.
group.
On the spot then. Somebody from group one volunteer. How about that?
Well, I can report that we had a lot of fun. And even not that it needs to be qualified. I was having some issues with the Jamboard, articulating the word versus the algebraic representation. My sense is I feel like we all knew what we were doing and just making efforts collectively to articulate that or to note that. And it can be done different ways, right? That expression of n cups minus 1 times 1.125 plus the 4.75.
Yes.
So anyway, it's a good exercise. I really enjoyed it.
Good. Thank you for sharing. All right, group two. Here's group twos.
First thing I noticed, you can tell the people who've been teaching online for a while, they just grab that pen and start writing on there and don't even think about it. So kudos to Nikita.
Yeah, so what were some of your challenges, some of your aha moments, or what was some of the conversation that you guys had?
One thing
Go ahead, Nikita.
with fractions, you can always work with fractions or you can change them to work with decimals. So
Mhm.
that's something like we started out talking in fractions and then I think we all kind of reverted to or changed them to the decimals. So that's something to make sure students are aware of that, if you get 0.125 and somebody else says it's 1/8, you're not wrong. Or,
Mhm.
you didn't get different answers.
Yes, good. Making that connection.
To Nikita's point, We experienced that as well, and if I were in a classroom, right, as a student, having not worked with, fractions explicitly a long time, it would be nice, especially for early learners, to see every, conversion 1/8 through 8/8 side by side. And then I suppose you could build on that when you're getting into ratios, etc. But that would be helpful too, so that students could track as we do pivot from fractions to decimals. And sometimes teachers do seamlessly, and learners are caught up and trying to catch up and experiencing some anxiety. I can relate to that.
Yeah. Well, and because I knew that you guys are all like level 4, 5, 6 learners, I felt pretty good with leaving this as fractions. If I were working with a lower level student, I would get rid of that fraction. You guys are just trusting that those numbers are accurate. You're just trusting that I measured that and I said it was 4 3/4, and the other one that was 5 7/8. I mean, they're just arbitrary numbers. I mean, they're realistic. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, that was only an inch tall, but they didn't come out that accurate. I'll just be honest with you when I measured them. So, and I did choose purposely, John, you mentioned the benchmarks, using what I consider friendly fractions, or fractions that they encounter on a daily basis. So yes, good points. All right, group 3, what challenges or struggles or conversations or aha moments did anybody have?
Well, as you can see, we did it. We were working it out in the chat and then trying to transfer it over to Jamboard, but that didn't work very well. So I just uploaded those pictures, screenshots of the chat.
Sure.
I think the hardest part for me was working with the fractions, and
Mhm.
I'm a little bit rusty on that right now because I'm not actually teaching a math class, but I'm teaching social studies that uses some math.
Mhm.
But we did manage to come up with the equations. Not the equations, but the uh,
Yeah.
to work out how tall 8 cups would be. So that's our 4/8 plus 7 times 1 1/8. And then going down, how tall would 50 cups be? And then that next one is our that's our rule
Mhm.
for figuring out how tall any number of cups would be. So 4 3/4 is the height of the first cup, including the lip,
Mhm.
plus the number of cups is C minus 1
Mhm.
because you're not counting the first cup, and then
Mm.
times 1 1/8 because that's the height of that lip. And so
Mhm.
that'll give you, and then we put it in words there, which is the part that's on the right-hand side.
Mhm.
And then we actually did all that first, and then we went back and we started actually doing the math. And so that's our 12 7/8 for how tall 8 cups would be. And then I
Yeah.
was working through the second one. And I was trying to simplify a fraction, 479 over 8, but then we got kicked back into the main group. So but it was a challenge working with fractions, and the when you have a real life object like this, like a cup, the
Mhm.
numbers are kind of messy. It doesn't work out neatly like it does a lot of times in a textbook or in a
Mhm.
pre-prepared lesson. So
Mhm.
that was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes, and Jeremy, you made a great point. Um, as students explain to me their work, and as you guys just were doing, you did a really good job at explaining why do you minus the 1 cup. I mean, and also I like the fact that you guys found the equation, the formula, the system, the pattern, what have you, and then you went back and did the exact, like for 8 cups and 50, like, your process was whatever made sense. That was the order that made sense. And problems sometimes in a textbook are like, do this step 1, do this step 2, and really there is no step 1, step 2. Like, this is a very open problem, and this is modeling more of like the problems that you would see in real life that are messy. So, and like I said, I would definitely, if it's at the end after students report, because very few times or infrequently do I have students that say, oh, and we minus the first cup because, and so I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. Okay, saving the best for last, group 4.
Okay, so I think we forgot how Jamboard works and that you can write on the on the
That's
screen.
okay.
So I think we all did ours individually,
Okay.
and then we discussed it. And we did have to at first cancel out the idea that it's not a proportion, and then we did agree to that. The first step was you had to subtract the height of both of the cups minus the bottom to find the lip, and then, like you said, we all figured out we needed to subtract the first cup, and then whether or not you multiplied the number of cups times 1 1/8 and then minus 1, or did the number of cups minus 1 times 1 1/8. Some people wrote it differently, but it turned out to be the same both ways.
Yeah. And that's great that you all, so did you all share that, like all your different strategies, like how y'all, that's great. See,
Mhm.
because I think a lot of times adult learners feel like this is math. There's one way to do it. We have to do it that way. And I try to really push against the idea that there are multiple ways, but I'm glad that you guys went the proportion. I mean, that's awesome that you went the proportional way and then you guys had a discussion about it and then decided, no, you weren't going to do that. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better class than you guys. You did everything that I would like to see in my classes. So good job for that, because students do everything that you guys did, and sometimes they don't. And so it's good to talk about, well, could you do this, and would that be okay? And so yeah, and this was a really simple thing. I was looking for task, trying to figure out how can I make algebra seem a little bit more approachable, because I do know that students use it every day. And so, yeah, just looking for those. So I did hear a few thoughts about the activity. We didn't really talk about skills that you use, but um, does anybody have any additional thoughts and want to talk about the skills that you found yourself using?
So I have a thought. So I
Okay.
went through that, how many cups can you put in here if you have a 14-inch cupboard?
Mhm.
So you have to use reasoning. You have to use your common sense, because obviously I messed up with my math somewhere, because I said I could put 19 cups in there.
Oh.
Obviously I can't, because that would be well over 19 inches. So I
Mhm.
know I've messed up in there somewhere. So I mean, I think that you could really show students, you can kind of tell if you're
Mhm.
right or if you're wrong.
Mhm. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Jennifer.
Something that occurs to me is it'd be really interesting if you actually had a cupboard, if there was something tangible, and then you could check and see, did we do this right? And that would make the connection to the real life application too.
Mm-hmm. That's my favorite thing to do. If in a face-to-face classroom, we have there's an activity that I go to quite often, and I can send it to Kim and she can put it on the page for us. It's called Bungee Barbie, and it's one that the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics put out many years ago. But it's kind of my go-to, and it does very much what you say, Jeremy, about being able to test it. Of course, you have to have Barbie and you got to have some rubber bands, but yeah, it's very much like this cup activity, because you measure like the staircase, or here at the college, we do go out to the hallway. We have an open staircase, so we just measure from the top of the staircase to the very bottom before the students come. And I tell my students, okay, we want Barbie not to bang her head on the cement, so we're going to make a prediction. So they have to do a few trial runs with maybe 1 or 2 rubber bands, and then they end up looping them together and then demonstrating. Sometimes, well, Barbie doesn't make it, but And we have Ken too. I have both Bungie Barbie and Budgie Kim. And we talk about, the differences because Ken weighs a little bit more. So, but yeah, no, you make a good point. Anybody else? What other skills did you? Critical thinking was one, a little bit of common sense.
In addition to the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division,
Mhm.
converting fractions.
Mhm.
I think we used our interpersonal skills
Mhm.
where someone had the wrong answer, and I suspect they did, they may have done that on purpose or not. Regardless, that's where the most, I think, learning came in, and I had a realization too that, oh yeah, no, we have to express that -1. And as we talked it through, like, well, what did you get? Is that what you got as well? And so having to explain it to our peers,
Mhm.
that was a learning experience and helped validated, and I guess improve cooperation. So I like that, those aspects from a classroom management perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as you guys were building your cohesive team, if you will, like anxiety, like, the anxiety that maybe you felt when you first saw it, kind of started to go away because you had a group of people. The heavy lift, it wasn't just on you. Um, those are all great things to happen that we want to see our students, of course, develop. All right.
Something
Well,
that
oh, go ahead, Nakia. Sorry.
so I do Zoom classes, so I was surprised how uh, difficult it was to go from a question on a screen that I don't have
Mm.
written in front of me and then listening to people read off numbers that I'm comparing to my numbers that are, fractions versus decimals, and trying
Mhm.
to match the paper to the screen to the oral, which isn't necessarily also written,
Mhm.
was more difficult than I.
Hadn't anticipated.
Mhm.
Good. That kind of it gives you an idea of how sometimes students struggle with that as well. So, yeah, and I hadn't anticipated that either. So that's good for me to know as well.
I think the activity was fine. Like, I don't think you did.
Mhm.
I
No,
think the
no,
activity was a good activity, but yeah, it's something,
to be aware of. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And as we move more into a digital realm where people are on their cell phones and devices, being able to like how do I write that with with my finger, or whatever if I have that option on the screen or what have you. So those are all good. Because it is it's harder to when you add that dimension of technology in there as well.
Brooke, I don't want to
Yeah.
digress, so if
No,
you
that's
want to
okay.
dismiss the question, but I'm just
Yeah.
wondering from a teacher perspective,
Sure.
and maybe as a way to revisit, like next class period, just to reinforce that as an activity, is there any benefit to having students complete similar problems with answers already given, and those answers are purposefully incorrect, and then the goal is to have the students identify that error. So this place, I
Yeah.
would see like it's error analysis, and obviously they forgot to subtract the 1 cup, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yes.
something like that. Is that,
Yeah, no,
would that
that
be
would be good
meaningful?
as well. Yes, I think as a teacher and anybody else can, feel free to, I think as a teacher, that would be beneficial, always to teach students how to go back and find the mistakes of another. I mean, with multiple choice, they have to do that deductive reasoning as well, trying to make inferences about how did they get there. All of those are good. Nakia, since you teach online, is that?
Yeah, I do some activities where we have an error and we're correcting it. Um, I need to be careful that I try not to introduce it until I we're we feel comfortable doing it and getting the correct answer before we jump
Mhm.
into that. And then I also found the resource that I found, I think does a nice job of kind of formatting it so it looks very different from the regular problems that we do. So then
Mhm.
I think that helps kind of the idea of you're looking at something, what you're looking at is incorrect. Um, so it doesn't get kind of all jumbled together with what's right, what's not right.
Perfect. All right, well, I'm gonna move on to another problem. So here is another problem. So I'll read you this story. So what a great week for Armand. He was offered both a part-time jobs for which he had applied. Now he needs to decide which one to take. He told his partner, Sherry, that LaserLink offered him to pay $200 a week, whereas Quinstar's offer was to pay $150 a week. Plus, there's a $2,000 sign-on bonus that he would get before he even started working. So he says, I'm going to take the Quinstar job because I do not intend to have to hold on the second job for more than a year. Sherry replied, I don't know, Armand. I think that you're being foolish. In a year, you would have more money at LaserLink. I bet you would I bet you would make more money, at LaserLink in just 6 months. No way. I'll prove it to you, Armand shouted. Who is right? So with that, I'm going to put you back into your groups. In the Jamboard, I'm going to have you guys kind of talk out some stuff. If you move your Jamboard to slide number 5, the story is there, as well as a little bit of directions about what you need to kind of be doing. So I'm going to put you guys back in there and let you guys talk it out, and then I'll bring you back like we did last time. Okay? All right, here you go.
Do we just want to take a couple minutes to look at it on our own before we start discussing, or?
Sure, whatever you guys want to do, I'm fine with.
It's in your, it's in the chat. Chat room. Here at the bottom. No. Never mind. Yeah. Yeah. Mm, it's like, part of the screen, so I'll do like one with the screen. Hungry?
Do we all kind of have a start on it, or do we want more time?
I'm okay.
Oh,
So how do we want to start? Start with the table?
Sure.
yeah, this is the hard part.
Okay.
But anyway,
See laser link. I suppose I should do.
Oh, wait, what happened now?
We'll do which week it is
Okay.
here.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna be.
Okay. So, his first week
So it's 26.
at LaserLink would be $200.
120. 200.
Kim, you're muted.
She's still muted. You're still muted, Kim.
There we go. Every week is $200. So
Yep.
not just the first week. Okay, so the But then-
Second week, we'd be at 400.
yeah, but you don't want to do that forever.
No, we'll skip ahead.
Okay. Like, oh.
Or we could label it as months. Do we want to go by month?
Well, I just said, because they were arguing about 26 weeks and 52 weeks, so I
Mhm.
those two numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. I would get nervous. Okay.
Okay. And then Quinstar was the $2,000 bonus and 150.
Yeah, so if you write it, if you put those in formula format though. You take 150 times X plus 200, that's your formula for. Or 2,000, sorry.
Okay, so that's for Quinstar.
Yeah,
And then our LaserLink formula would just be 200
times X.
times X. Okay. So then if we do that for 2 weeks,
And then that's for,
300. What did you get for LaserLink for 26 weeks?
Laser link for 26 weeks is 5,200. And
yeah,
and for
you
52,
need that bonus to be.
5,200 and then 10,4.
Be hoping for it.
For 52 weeks, it's 10,400, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I use, Jamboard.
Okay.
Text.
Darcy, do you have questions about any of that part?
No, you guys got further than I did when I started trying to look at this.
I think we've seen this problem
Yeah.
before, so
Oh,
we've
have
got a
you?
bit of a head start.
Okay.
Yeah, this is in the Empower books.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But
And then
if you stop worrying about the algebra part of it and just say, you know, like, how do I find out for any number of weeks? That's what that's why you come up with those two formulas.
and that's why like when students start, a lot of times they will go, okay, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
See-
4 weeks until they figure
See,
out that
I
this is
did
tedious.
200 times 4 and tried to get that number, then that number times 6 and came up with that number. And that's, I was just kind of playing with it.
Mhm.
That's where I started.
I
Well,
think that's where most people start, you
yeah.
start and then you realize that, to get to 52 weeks, once you notice the pattern, sometimes you go 1 week at a time until you notice the pattern and then you can apply it to the bigger numbers.
And the only reason I picked the 26 weeks and the 52 weeks, because they said half a year and a year and,
Okay.
and, 52 weeks in a year. So
Okay. Yes.
that's the only reason I picked those numbers, because that's what they were arguing about.
Yeah, and I was just kind of, okay, weeks, and I was just, yeah. So that's where I kind of got stuck.
Yeah, it's,
I think that's how students are gonna start.
Mhm.
Because you know, we have the formulas.
Oh.
Most students aren't going to jump to formulas as early. They're gonna have to do, you know, they're gonna have to do week by week until they kind of get the idea of it. And then what was Quinstar? I suppose I can write out the
Twin Star would
Oh.
be
150.
26 weeks was 5,900.
So Darcy does this formula.
Now I'm seeing, yep.
Okay. So $150 a week for 26 weeks, plus that sign-on bonus. And what did you say that was?
That is 26 weeks is 59. Oh, no. Yeah, that one's 5,900.
Yeah.
But then you start losing money. And that's where the interesting,
Mm.
where you can get into your next step is at what point are you better off doing the other job? Where does it,
Mhm.
you know, because if you go to 52 weeks on that one, then it's 9,800.
And then instead of right or wrong,
So yeah, at 26 weeks, it's still a better deal to stay with the Quinstar. But at some point after that, it becomes,
Darcy, I think that if you use the Empower books, it actually has a table written for the students to start with, and I believe they have the time frame. I think they have the weeks
Is that the
to
numbers
do
power
in
book?
out.
yes.
It's yep, the Empower, and it's Seeking Patterns, Building Rules. So Seeking Patterns is the book.
Another kind of, Darcy, are you familiar with like sheets or anything or Excel?
A little bit, a little bit.
Sometimes it's fun to put some of those formulas in there and then you can create these cool looking tables that are
Okay.
really fast once you know how to put your formula in.
Okay.
And so, and that might be an option for you to look at. So then you can see the pattern much quicker without worrying about the math so much. If you can
Okay.
see the formula.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And I really like that that Seeking Patterns book. You know, it starts you out with tables and kind of more as a puzzle than the math. And I tend to have good luck with students with that.
Okay, thank you.
Math Antics is also good when you're kind of getting used to a new topic.
Yeah, I've kind of
Because
used that
they're
just a
very
little bit. I found
visual.
it. Yeah.
All right, everyone's coming back slowly. All right, same thing. I'm gonna have different people report out. Tell me some things that conversations that you had, any struggles with the math, any aha moments. Start with group one. So that'd be John, Karen, and Landon.
This one, and I don't want to monopolize, so Karen and Landon, please feel free. For me, this one was more challenging to try to put together
Mhm.
or to articulate the formula. You know, it was very evident that in the long run, LaserLink would be more profitable, but in the short run with that, obviously with that sign-on bonus, that would be more interesting, and that's part of the context that he doesn't plan to work it for more than a year.
Mhm.
I was, heuristically trying to plug numbers to find when it would be more profitable. And
Mhm.
and what I got here, I don't even think it's right. I think it'd be a little bit longer than 36 weeks, but we were sort of commiserating. There's
40
got to
weeks.
be a formula.
40
Is it
weeks.
40? Okay. How could we put together that formula? I hope the future groups show us how to do that. And I
Mhm.
think this is a
I wish I could figure
great opportunity. Real world work readiness, financial literacy. There's so many
Mhm.
aspects here. So thank you.
Yeah, this is a really good, like, things that people face every day trying to decide which job. Since Kim said 40, here, we'll put this up here. This is her groups. And
Can I share my screen?
yeah, it's available. Let me stop. I'll stop mine and you can share yours.
So this is something I showed my own kids, and it was fast, and then we just stopped worrying about so much about, okay, so you can see my spreadsheet, right?
Look at her.
So I
Yes.
put my formulas at the top, obviously without an equal sign, or it wouldn't work very well. But so laser link is 200 times the number of weeks, X, and the other one is 150 times X. So at some point, at some point you're like, that's what I want to know. At what point does it start? And right here is where it changes. So depending on when he plans, if he truly knows when he's going to leave that job, then he could make that decision. At a year, he's losing money at that one. Well, anything after 40 weeks, he's better off doing the other one. But I use that a lot when I show people because it's so fast and they're not spending their time. They're just, you can start to see the pattern really fast.
Yeah, I love that you use spreadsheets because that's what that's what technology is for. If we have technology available, Desmos, graphing calculators, any of those things. I always encourage students because as an adult that you're going to use whatever's available to help you figure stuff out. So great.
And as an employment person, I want people to have transferable skills for the workforce. And they do not teach these things in school anymore.
No, they do not.
Not in K-12.
Nope. And see, unfortunately, even in college, we teach them on a graphing calculator, and that's not good. They need to know how to do it, like you said, for the workforce. All right,
This
group 3.
underscores
Oh,
digital
go ahead.
literacy. So excellent point. And I'm wondering too, Kim, how did you, is that where you identified 10 and then 26 and then just pulled the formula down? So I think it's a great digital literacy tool, not only for our students, but even for me as staff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, no, good. All good. All right, group 3. Challenges, successes, aha moments.
Well, we started with the math first, with
Okay.
not the visual, the graphs and the charts and stuff, but the meat and potatoes part of it. And then we went backwards and we went to the next page of the Jamboard because we ran out of room for our
Oh, okay.
our graph, but we didn't get very far.
Look how fancy you were getting, though. That's awesome. You were trying.
We were trying.
Yeah, it is hard. If I were Nikita, you back me up on this. There are other programs out there that you can use to help with graphing in an online environment. Excel is a good one. I like to share that but also Desmos works as well. Nikki, is there a special, how do you have students graph, or do you?
Oh.
No, okay,
Paper,
no, that's
pencil, and
fine.
students graph for the
Sure.
most part.
Okay.
It's on graphs that go with our worksheets, and then I don't have one saved. I'll just Google graphing tool.
Okay, yeah, that's maybe something that I can share out also, Kim, as some, resources that way as well.
So I have a question. Is that, can you create graphs on Google Sheets? Or is that
Yes.
limited? You can. Oh,
Yeah, you can. Not quite as fancy ones, but I think you can definitely do line graphs on it. So, yeah.
Actually, you could do all kinds of fancy ones on it.
Oh, can you? Maybe I'm just not trained. Look at you. Okay. I'm in Excel. We have Excel. So yeah, I'm spoiled. Group 4. Any aha moments?
So we, like group 3, we started with the math first.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided to do the graph first.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very crude graph with no labels.
That's okay.
But really it was just to show that the quid star starts higher on the y-axis
Mm-hmm.
and has a lower slope
Mm-hmm.
versus the laser link, which has a larger slope. And we decided that at 6 months, it would be better to work at, what did we decide? At the Quinn Star, but in the long run, it would be better at laser link. So, and yes, Jeremy, you can do all sorts of graphs in Google Docs. You use Google Sheets first, and you go to Insert, and it's Charts, and then you click on that, and then you can choose what kind of chart graph you want to use, and then you can copy it and paste it into your Google Doc.
Oh, I just
Thank
took
you.
notes. I just took notes. Me too. Me too. Because you just never know when you might need to use Google Sheets. So yeah.
And there's tons of customization on that too. It's got really easy little drop downs that make the chart change really easily.
Awesome.
I'm gonna look up some tutorials on YouTube. Thank you very much.
Great. So there are some other ideas. You guys used a lot of the good math words that in a classroom setting, slope, y-intercept. Where do you see the y-intercept? Things like that to ask students. I mean, you could create the graph and then just have students visually tell you what's going on. And then I came up with these are a few more additional ideas. You could work it backwards. You know, if he earned that amount, how long did he work? And so just a couple more ideas there. And we've kind of been reflecting on this, but does anybody else have any thoughts about this activity or skills that we used?
I really like the idea of thinking about where does the math change and it isn't as beneficial to you. I like that people think it's because it's more advanced skill than just, well, what am I making at 10 weeks or what am I making at 20 weeks? But oh wait, something happens here where it isn't as good a deal. So I like that advanced thinking.
Yes. Yes. And the story, and it helps, I think, that there's a story as opposed to just showing like the two equations and where do they intersect, you know, and it's more about remember the story first, like what's happening first. So I found this problem off of the GED practice and I thought to myself, this kind of looks kind of similar to that problem that so it does match what happens with the GED. So it is this idea that we are doing math that does apply. So
Brooke, sorry to
yes,
interrupt. I'm
no,
just
that's
thinking,
okay.
You know, with those follow-ups, depending on the level of the group, I mean, for me too, then, because it all is so intertwined with work readiness and financial literacy and their goals, I think you could begin to even expand with complexity of like, okay, what if job A is the laser link farther in distance or requires you know, more travel costs or time, and really get into some more of the nuances as we think about critical decisions, quality of life, or those kind of factors.
Yeah, the messiness of everyday living. Yes, definitely.
Have you met our students, John?
Well, it builds towards that idea. I mean, you know.
Well, I mean, and students in poverty, like even in our poverty simulation, right, they have a lot of other demands. It's not so easy in a job to always clearly define what are the benefits worth, or what, the perquisites, what's important to me. And I think a lot of our students understand they might need flexibility in the afternoons, or yeah, LaserLink has that, but they're only employing this time of day. And so, it's some of those larger almost mentorship, life skill, executive functions that you're also working with too.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Well, in the last minutes that we have here, I do want to speak about graphs. Storytelling is a great way to teach graphs to our students. What I like to do is put up a graph and say, tell me a story. And so in the last few minutes here, I want you to kind of just individually kind of think about a story that maybe you could write about what's going on in the graph. And then if you feel brave, you can tell it. And if you need an example, I'm more than happy to. So I'll use my energy level. So I normally start the morning. This is let me see if I can use my little laser pen. So I start the morning in a very high level. I'm very much a morning person. But then slowly throughout the day, I start to hit the wall and my energy level goes down really low. But then I take a nap on good days. And then all of a sudden I start to soar again until I begin to level off towards bedtime. That's my story. Anybody else have a story they want to tell? Kim, looks like you have a story. I can tell by your face.
I do, but I want to wait, see if somebody else has one.
Okay.
I got one.
Okay.
So I think of this as like a hiking trip,
Okay.
and I'm lazy at first, so I have an airplane drop me off at the top, and then I
Uh-huh.
start to hike down.
Okay.
However, by the time I get to the bottom, I feel guilty about being lazy, and then I start to actually walk up the mountain.
Okay. Yeah, so you could then talk about, okay, so this could be the altitude, talk about the labels of your story, Mm-hmm. Good.
I mean, I can't help but look at that and not think over time, like enrollment levels and COVID's impact and how it really challenged. And now we're starting to come out of that nadir, that low point, and we're still below our original plateau, but we're trending upward.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good one.
I have one.
Go for it, Darcy.
So here's where I started with math and probably about 5th, 6th grade. I was in a higher level of math. And then I got mono in 7th grade and missed many, many weeks of school. Was even hospitalized, came back and couldn't do math. Then really hated math and was afraid of it and spent most of my life not wanting to do math. But look, I got a job teaching adult education. And so now I'm revisiting math. And and there we go.
Yeah, so I mean, the way I was mapping that, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is like the your emotional, like your journey this way about math, and then the X was about like the different time periods of your life.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we just have 3 minutes left. I know it goes so fast. But I definitely want to just give time to give some final thoughts. the activity that we did is actually, like I said, I know that you guys have this curriculum. I'm gonna encourage you to pull it out, blow the dust off of it and look through that. So the activity with the job offer is in there. And it's a really good activity, especially for people that have to deal with those decisions in their life. And it gives them more, I mean, the math is more accessible. I feel like it's not scary, when they can come at it from a situation that they can relate to. And, I encourage students all the time to, bring stories to class. Sometimes I just have them tell the story and then see if I can graph what they're telling me. Or encourage them to look at the graph and tell the story. And then we build from we look for equations. Can we do an in and out table and just extend it? Those problems create wonderful discussions. And then you can say, see, you just did algebra. And then they start to feel more confident in their ability. I just encourage you guys to, I mean, I am going to give Kim the Bungee Barbie, but if you do find resources, I would say just be able to share them with each other. I think I don't know, I don't want to say, hey, Kim, we'll just email you with all these lessons. But if you have a really good lesson, I'm sure the rest of us would love to see it. And then maybe the next time we get together, we can share some successes that you had in the classroom in regarding to finding those real life opportunities to find algebra. All right. So in the last minute, are there any questions or any last comments? All right, I'm going to stop.